Transportation in cinema as a plot mechanic birthed a new genre, the road movie. The road movie formula often involves two or more characters travelling alongside each other through modes of transportation to reach a destination. The road movie genre is intrinsically tethered to American culture. The American myth of the open road is at the base of Dennis Hopper's Easy Rider and Nicholas Ray's They Live by Night, both telling stories on characters on the quest for freedom on the road.
Americans have always had a very romantic sense of the road and of the car as representing freedom and autonomy, but the car itself is isolating. It's this metal box that cuts you off from other people and that induces a kind of antisocial, aggressive behavior where you see other people as just obstacles in the way of you getting where you're going.
David Letterman's What a Trip, the road film and American culture, cites that the fascination with the open road forms from the events of World War II being pivotal to its genesis, but the automobile offering a form of escapism for the people, to travel by choice for freedom and liberation. It's asinine to ignore other nations' involvement in the road film genre. My analysis will investigate the impact European cinema brought upon the road movie, ushering in a grey area of defining what forms the film's identity. My thesis shall focus on two influential filmmakers that helped redefine the genre: Germany's Wim Wenders and the United States' Jim Jarmusch.
Mon pays, c'est l'imaginaire. Et l'imaginaire, je voyage entre deux vents. Et derrière, et comme Wim, je suis un...
The clip presented was from the Wim Wenders directed documentary Room 666, showcasing filmmaker Jean-Luc Godard, a pioneer of the Nouvelle Vague movement, a countercultural movement in France as an avant-garde alternative to Hollywood filmmaking. Wendy Everett, in the introduction to the book European Identity in Cinema, attempts to narrow down the key components forming a European identity. Everett's readings complement the material found in Godard's filmography, such as his road film, Près le Feu, with its social commentary on the Vietnam and Algerian wars.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Hey, that's damn good.
Were various references to other art forms and entertainment, with Masculine Feminine's discussion on the American musician Bob Dylan.
Mais qui êtes-vous, Mr. Bob Dylan?
European identity is more defined of what it's not than what it is. It thrives on being a subversion of the American cinema. Wim Wenders is one of Germany's most celebrated filmmakers and exhibits many of Everett's stated characteristics of European cinema. What makes Wenders interesting is the extent of the American influence.
We made Alice in the Cities, where we just risked everything. It was all or nothing. What I discovered in the making of it was a genre that I didn't even know existed. It was the road movie.
Alice in the Cities follows Philip, a German journalist and photographer who's grown fatigued towards the United States after suffering writer's block around his article on the US. The inciting incident occurs when Philip decides to return to Europe. Upon his departure, he rediscovers a fondness for the States, exampled here in the sequence where he drinks a Coca-Cola at a concert of legendary American musician Chuck Berry. Wenders' love of American music runs throughout his career. Take for instance these sequences, where his characters quote Bob Dylan lyrics.
Double-crossed for the very last time, but now I'm finally free.
I've been double-crossed now for the very last time, and now I'm finally free.
Oh, where have you been, my darling young one?
Where have you been, my darling young one?
The love of American music derives from a cultural revolution within Germany following World War II to remove itself from Nazism. Wenders was quoted in saying, "Rock and roll gave a lot of people a sense of identity for the first time. In a way, because it had more to do with joy than anything else. So it was with rock and roll that I started to think of fantasy, or creativity, as having something to do with joy, the idea of having the right to enjoy something." Wenders has fondness for American culture, but not without critique. In his book co-written with Mary Zanazzi, Inventing Peace, Wenders scrutinises the American dream, stating, "If the American dream keeps turning into a nightmare, it's largely because there is this damned fundamentalist urge to divide the world into black and white instead of allowing glorious shades of grey." 1984's Paris, Texas is an American film in setting and verbal language, yet represents Wenders' identity as a European filmmaker in the storytelling and the cinematic language. The plot concerns Travis reconnecting with his son after 4 years drifting through the desert of Texas and setting off on a road trip to find the boy's mother and his ex-lover, Jane. Stan Jones's contribution to European identity in cinema deems Vendor's thematic concerns of spectatorship at the forefront of the European sensibilities. This is depicted in the film's inevitable narrative payoff of Travis finding Jane, but in a subversive manner. Travis discovers that Jane is a sex worker, whose role is chatting to customers through a one-way glass.
You realize that I can't see you, even though you can see me.
The film never has the two share the same room in the entire runtime. The film's sparse in its communication to the audience. Travis is mute throughout the entire start of the picture.
You know, I'm getting a little sick of this silence routine. You can talk.
Rudiger's Vulgar's characters are all drifters and loners until their chance encounter inciting incidents. Vendor's protagonists refuse communication, and the physical journey on the road paired with forming new connections is ultimately the narrative arc. Alexis Gibbs acknowledges this crucial piece of the Vendor's design. Vendors is a European filmmaker influenced by America. Jarmusch is an American filmmaker influenced by Europe.
I wrote a little story, an idea for a film with John Lurie, and I got some help. Wim Wenders gave me some leftover film material, unexposed film stock that he had from a film he made in LA and Portugal called The State of Things.
Stranger Than Paradise's protagonist, Willie, is an American with Hungarian background. The unexpected visit of his Hungarian cousin, Eva, demonstrates his disavowal of Hungarian roots.
Don't speak Hungarian at all. Only English, right? While you're here, only English.
Effectively indoctrinating Eva on American culture, like food and sports.
You know, this is where we eat in America. So you see the guy who's got the ball? That's the quarterback.
The film is deliberately minuscule, split into 3 separate locations in the US, where the monotony of American culture grows tiresome.
Someplace new and everything looks just the same.
Film ends with Willie travelling back to Hungary as he believes that's where Eva has went, yet ironically, Eva is still in the States. Robert McKee, in his book Story, cites Stranger Than Paradise by name as an anti-plot film. McKee associates this minimalist form of storytelling with post-World War II European cinema. Jarmusch's pronounced European tendencies complicate his identity as an American filmmaker. Sarah Platt's Reconstructing Narratives in Film, the case study of Jim Jarmusch, analyses these methods. Frequently, the protagonists are unable to communicate with themselves, either because of language or cultural barriers, a trait of Jarmusch's style that emphasizes identity crisis and isolation. Down by Law, Mystery Train, and Night on Earth follow suit. Jarmusch himself focuses on communication skills as the obstacle his characters must overcome. Except in this instance, it's crossing the language barriers between Americans and Europeans.
Buzz off. Thank you. Buzz off to you too.
1991's Night on Earth sees a smart-talking American named Yo-Yo mocking the name of his German cab driver, Helmet.
Helmet. See, because in English, a helmet would be like, you know, like something you wear on your head.
He fails to see the irony in his own name.
It's my name, Yo-Yo.
It's a toy for Yo-Yo.
Jarmusch breaks cultural barriers through irony, even having the characters sporting similar hats, which the American refuses to acknowledge.
It's the same hat. Mine's different, man.
This is different, yeah.
Look, mine's the newest, latest. Mine's fresh.
Jarmusch has commented on his own nationality, saying, "I'm an American by circumstance. I'm not really interested in nationalities or borders. I'm very interested in cultures and what makes them different from the other cultures. And I'm also fascinated by those areas where the lines of cultures blur, because in those blurred edges is where synthesis occurs and the gardens grow." Labeling film by a single national identity is restrictive. Wim Wenders stated in Inventing Peace, "We demand the idea of owning. Our entire civilization is built on this principle. We need to take possession of everything: ideas, objects, land, people." Both filmmakers reject ownership, especially given that their filmographies is sharing culture to craft the stories on the importance of communication. Wendy Everett cites philosopher John Baudrillard when saying, "America has no identity problem. Europe does, and its films explore the endless complexities of that problem." To conclude, the two filmographies present American culture clearly in the form of art, ideals, and objects. European culture is discovered when compared and contrasted with American culture. It's subversion that distinguishes Europe from America. Wenders and Jarmusch demonstrate film as a global language. To hold the two to the single title of European or American is futile and limiting.